Solve the World, Episode 9, The Mechanical Giraffe. Residence. Single room, queen-sized bed, room 200, front door in. California driver's license number 345879119. Name, Jennifer Calling. Age, 18. Brown hair, blue eyes. Roommate, Tiff. Employee badge, performing artist. Outfit, revealing maroon silk dress. Giant ornate tiara with fake golden cobra. A locker. A 6-week contract. An envelope with $300. Assignment, ride a mechanical giraffe for the St. Denis Parade, which runs at 9:15, 11:04, 12:55, 1:58, 5:15, and 7:45. Wave to the peasants. Smile. Always smile. Requirement, arrive at Park's employee backlot 100% sober every morning at 6:15 a.m. every single day until Veneration celebration, at which point the contract is terminated. Random drug screenings to be expected. Employee must not have scent of alcohol or cigarettes. Smile. 7. Always smile, even when you don't feel like it. Wave politely. Act like royalty. Under no circumstance get off the giraffe. After leaving the Patriots' presence, life was handed to Jenn on an apparent silver platter. She had pocket money once more, a place to stay, and a roommate. It was still kind of up in the air in Jenn's mind whether Tiff was friendship material or not. 9. Make friends everywhere, but don't trust one friend over another. She could count on being fed now, and she was literally treated like a princess at her job. Patriots' employment opportunity for Jenn was the ilk of millions of 7-year-old girl daydreams. Jenn was to play the role of Queen Cleopatra at Magical Kingdom's lauded St. Denis's processions. Perennially muddled about history, Jenn had to be retold who exactly Cleopatra was. Once she heard, Jenn instantly liked the idea of imitating the most powerful woman of the ancient world. Cleopatra, the reincarnation of the Egyptian goddess Isis, was far more than just a pretty face for Caesar to lust after. She came from a line of dynastic dullards, the Greek-speaking Ptolemies. Though they ruled Egypt for hundreds of years, they refused to learn the tongue of their people. Worse yet, they interbred as if they were the last rabbits on earth. Cleopatra herself was forced at a young age to marry her prepubescent, snotty-nosed younger brother. But her ambition would turn the tides of human history. Rather than being merely another inbred Ptolemy, she spoke to her people in Egyptian. She learned many languages, in fact. She stripped herself of the Ptolemy name, and, by her wit, wisdom, and confounding beauty, won the heart of the most powerful man in the world. Only the likes of Sophia Loren, Vivian Leigh, and Elizabeth Taylor were worthy of donning the heavy Egyptian eye makeup that translates to our modern-day sign for Cleopatra. Only the savviest, strongest-willed beauties of any generation is given the honor of impersonating the Queen of Egypt herself. And now, Jenn was bequeathed the honor of continuing the tradition of remembrance. Jenn was elated. The routine. Wake up at 5:45. Open miraculously full fridge. Grab milk. Snag Fruity Pebbles. Munch on cereal quietly so as to not awaken Tiff. Leave apartment at 6 a.m. Swipe card at back employee entrance. Say hi and innocently wave at Dion, the guard on duty. Meander through the back alleys of the park. Observe how unsatisfying an experience it is to see a theme park behind its curtains. Arrive at Manifestations building. Walk through 3 long hallways, always remembering to stop at the drinking fountain. Drinking is tedious and difficult once the wardrobe and makeup are applied, so it's best to be as hydrated at the outset of the day as possible. Spy in to see if Clarence is in his office. He's not. Go to Susan Cubbenside's room, say good morning to her, and sit. From 6:15 to 6:22, find a way to slip into the silk dress. 6:23 to 6:29. Susan applies tape to the necessary places. 6:30 to 7:35. Sit patiently as Susan applies makeup. Listen to her newest story about her pet ferret, Enrique. Don't smirk as she informs you for the third day in a row that it's illegal to own ferrets in California, so don't tell anyone, okay? Repress smirks since you've learned that in fact ferrets are only illegal to buy or sell in California, not to own, so Susan's point of law-breaking pride is all in vain. Keep this little secret to yourself. 7:36 to 8 a.m. Walk with Susan for what feels like an hour to the loading dock. 8:01 to 8:20. Say goodbye to Susan, who for whatever reason is partially employed to escort you from the makeup chamber to the waiting dock. You go nowhere alone. You must always have some sort of entourage. 8:21 to 8:22. Walk up the 6 steps and sit on the saddle of the fully mechanical, fully formed metal giraffe. 8:23 to 8:30. Wait patiently as a specialist seatbelts you into the saddle. Of course, the seat buckler flirts with you. Doesn't matter which guy it is. You're Cleopatra now, riding on a mechanical giraffe. You're gonna get flirters every day. 8:31 to 8:45. Pistons fire and the giraffe, quote-unquote, turns on. Say good morning to Giraffe. You've named him Claude. Ask Claude how he's doing. Smile at anyone in the room as you feign anxiousness, pretending to wait for Claude's response. No one ever laughs at this joke, but you enjoy it. 8:46 to 8:59. Sit on Claude. 9 a.m. A couple of bells go off in the waiting dock. The park is open. 9:01. Doors open and Claude begins to march with you, swaying to and fro. 9:10. 6 dancers dressed in Egyptian pharaonic garb encircle your giraffe. 9:11 to 9:15. You line up in the parade order. You're directly behind Sir Isaac Newton riding a low-flying hot air balloon with an apple in his hand, and Genghis Khan and his swashbuckling Mongols at your rear. Khan, unlike you, is numbered with a dozen or so warriors mounted on not mechanical horses, but 2-man plastic contraptions. The result is that these dang Tartars can fly around far quicker than your stumbling machine beast. It's a good thing, too, that your undulate is fake, otherwise the centaur-like horde behind you would surely spook Claude into a dizzying collapse. You're especially impressed by the steaming flames that occasionally burst forth from the cloth snouts of those plastic horses. Really impressive stuff. Makes you wonder about the behemoth and Leviathan breathing fire. 9:27. You're near the edge of the parade, so your wait is longer than most. But inevitably, you and your litter push through the gates. You're in the park, and you're part of the procession. You are Cleopatra. It's amazing. You do this 6 times a day, and yet the exhilaration hasn't worn off yet 4 days in. It's beautiful. It's marvelous. Perhaps for the first time in your life, you feel at home. You feel at peace. You were made to be Cleopatra, and the world is as simple as that. How does one solve the world? Answer. Dress up as an Egyptian queen, ride a giant mechanical giraffe amidst a busy street with historical/cultural landmarks abounding everywhere around you. That's it. It's that easy. You've solved the world. No, of course not. Intellectually, Jenn knew her adventure had not yet reached a climax, and certainly feeling happy, or dare she think fulfilled, did not fulfill the criteria of understanding and solving the whole of the world, the whole of history, the whole of rationale and reason, the whole of emotion. It just felt good, and it had been so very long since Jenn felt anything close to real happiness in her life. She just couldn't help but eat up the experience and secretly pray to the stars that it would never end. For most people of this world, however, Jenn's job would be gut-bustingly tedious and overwhelming. Besides the 1-hour lunch from 2:30 to 3:30, Jenn's workday essentially started from wake-up at 5:45 a.m. and didn't end until she arrived back at her hotel room most nights well after 10 p.m. And then rinse and repeat. No Sabbath day's rest, no weekend. Only the revolving door of time, day in, day out, with only Claude the mechanical giraffe along for the journey. Still, having every minute of the day pre-programmed appealed to Jenn more than her previous retinue of having no minute of any day figured out at all. The only hesitation in life for Jennifer Freedash, or as she was now to be called, Jennifer Calling, was the suspicion that the Patriot's intentions were indeed nefarious, and in time she would be asked to do something really abhorrent. As of now, nearly a week into her newfound career, both the Patriot and Tiff had been absolutely mum on the matter of what this was all about. There had to be something. Patriot called it, quote, a prize. What could that be? As the head in his hand Saint Denis preached from his melon a new gospel, Jenn should have figured it out. But not quite yet. With D'Anconia's rise as the figurehead of Daniel Babbitt's inheritance, he instilled a series of traditions to Magical Kingdom's culture. The foremost of these was the Veneration celebration. Make no mistake, D'Anconia bet the farm on this one, and it paid off in delicious spades. D'Anconia's plan was to mint a new holiday in the eyes of the nation. His vision was to make All Saints' Day, November 1st, surpass Halloween in grandeur. He did just that, and after nearly 10 years of annual Veneration celebrations, the President of the United States proclaimed All Saints' Day to be a national holiday. And with that, Saints Row, the center of Magical Kingdom, became the epicenter of conviviality and worship. It went like this. Every year, on All Saints' Day, moments after the doors fly open at 9 in the morning, a new park attraction is revealed. What made the anniversary so exemplary in the eyes of the public, however, was not so much the idea of a new ride in and of itself, but the secrecy of it all. D'Anconia rightly understood that expectation is the most important ingredient to human glee. So it is that on November 1st, at the very center of the park, in the midst of Saints Row, the new attraction is unleashed. The attraction is somehow built upon a mighty platform and carried traditionally by the, quote, 7,000 oxen of God to the area of the park, or rather, to the peak, wherein the attraction will be cemented in and opened, usually a month or so later, so that by Christmas time, everything is in place. The point therein is that it remains a mystery where the annual new attraction will find its home. Las Vegas has a yearly racket of bets concerning which of the Saints' peaks will receive the new attraction. Beyond that, it's really a sight to see in and of itself. A giant structure being carried and lifted by what engineers say is really just a giant tank through the park to its final location. Think about a roller coaster slowly being carried throughout the day through your favorite theme park. To behold it in person is to feel the very presence of a miracle in action. For the lucky few thousands that somehow get their hands on a ticket for Veneration celebration, they return to their regular, boring lives changed, as if they'd experienced the very face of God shining on their faces. Only the insanely rich, who've experienced untold and unspoken thrills, seem immune to the thrill of the event. Yes, there are years when the attraction itself fails to overwhelm, such as in 2009 when the newest attraction to join St. George's Peak revealed itself to be tantamount to a spinning teacup ride. Nonetheless, even on those less spectacular years, the marvel of the grand move from Saints Row to the chosen peak never lets down, never lets up. 3. Don't idolize anyone or anything. Jenn's place in the charade was all part of the hype. Normally, if one were to visit St. Denis's Peak in the park, for those who have forgotten, it's peak number 6 of 7, one would mostly simply enjoy the experience of the locale. St. Denis's Peak over the years evolved to be a recreation of every major city in the world. There's a coliseum wherein one could watch a gladiator tournament 3 times a day. Fake, of course. Stonehenge, the White House, and Sparta's never-ending pit. There's even a miniature of Las Vegas itself, where one could encounter a miniature of Las Vegas's miniature Eiffel Tower. At the center of the peak, of course, is a full-sized recreation of Notre Dame. If one were to stroll through the street on a random day, let's say May 14th, one would encounter a headless saint running down the avenue. In his hands would be the man's head, which would be voraciously proclaiming a Claude politically correct gospel. It generally goes something like, "God is good! Believe! See my head! I'm alive even though they cut off my head! My name is Saint Denis! How cool is God?" And then he'd run on and repeat the sing-songy message to the next passerby. During the month of October, however, everything is upped. The ante is down. Magical Kingdom shells out hype in the form of a world pilgrimage. The heroes of space and time stroll down the Parisian worldly lane to take in St. Denis's Gospel of Veneration celebration. If one were to catch the headless saint and hear his message in October, rather than focus on his headlessness, one would be enraptured in the saint's suggestion of a coming attraction to Saints Row. Twitter erupts daily as St. Denis supposedly lets out subtle hints leading up to the All Saints' Day revelation. And so, in this great machine, Jenn found herself employed and engaged as the Great Cleopatra riding a giraffe to the Promised Land. That is, she rode for 4 days, until Mohammad Najjar visited. It was Thursday. Jenn had rinsed and repeated her formula as she had the 3 days prior. The first 2 shows at 9:15 and 11:04 went smoothly, except that Claude froze up for nearly 20 seconds near the pyramids, only to switch back on to life as if not missing a step a moment later. The 12:55 show started just fine, without a hitch. In fact, Claude and Jenn were nearly to the end, for St. Denis had already shouted himself on by when Mr. Najjar appeared. Unlike other parades, the pilgrimage at St. Denis's was constructed in such a way so as to suppress crowds standing shoulder to shoulder staring agog at each new celebrity litter. Rather, the mob strolled amidst the sea of fame and infamy. That's perhaps why more elaborate processions, such as Jenn and Claude, were accompanied by fellow travelers. Her 6 Egyptian dancers were as much for security as they were anything else. He stood 30 feet in front of them, staring blankly forward from the center of the road. Jenn noticed him immediately. His composure told the tale of someone waking up from a nightmare. Then, just like that, like one awoken by an annoyingly loud alarm clock, Mohammad Najjar snapped. He sprinted at Jenn and Claude. Being a skinny but broad-shouldered man, his approach brought terror with it. He screamed in some foreign tongue as he ran. 2 of the dancers/Egyptian security guards tried to stop them, but like a running back primed for the goalposts, Mr. Najjar busted through their feeble line. A ram, he pulverized Claude, the mechanical giraffe's right foot. Down came the steel steed. Jenn, buckled in at various angles, had no hope of escape. Mohammad took out the leg, unbalancing the modern beast. The giraffe collapsed under its unbalanced weight. Jenn, fully aware that she was aboard a sinking Titanic, as best she could, wrestled her body, and specifically her head, away from the concrete as it zoomed toward her. Bang! The creature had fallen. Gears and motherboards launched themselves free from their regimented homes. In the death throes of ultimate shutdown, Claude lunged his long neck and head repeatedly against the unforgiving ground. Jenn lost consciousness. A slow fade out. She awoke in a stretcher a minute or so later. Beside her, not 10 feet away, Mohammad Najjar was being strapped in vigorously into his own gurney. He was bleeding profusely from the head, and both his knees portrayed a completely shattered body. Mohammad blabbered blindly, weakly. As various official-looking people wheeled Jenn away, she snuck a peek at her defeated friend. "Oh, Claude, you were too beautiful for this world. Why did this happen? Why was that man after me? Did he hate Claude? Was this low-tech terrorism? How could this happen in this modern age? What did he want?" He looked like he snapped, like this wasn't premeditated, but rather some putrid reaction to a thought. Shortly thereafter, Jenn's thoughts would prove to be very close to the truth. The park went into lockdown mode as Jenn was wheeled across the park campus to the on-staff doctor. After 20 minutes, the doc reached the conclusion that Jenn suffered nothing more than a few bruised ribs. He, very uncouthly in Jenn's opinion, snickered at the mental image of Claude's great fall. When asked, he supposed that Jenn's loss of consciousness was brought on by an overwhelming rush of blood to the head, not by any substantial physical hit or anything else external. Post-doctor analysis, Clarence, Jenn's mildly attractive but ridiculously funny supervisor, ordered her home for the day. She was to take Friday off as well, only to return spick and span Saturday morning. Jenn asked what they'd do with Claude. Clarence supposed the park's legion of engineers would be able to fix the broken brute. Jenn re-envisioned Claude's neck and head snapping back against the concrete over and over again. She was skeptical that the monstrous walking machine would rise again. After returning her wardrobe to its proper place, Jenn headed home and slept her same usual sleep, minus 1 hour of middle-of-the-night interruption. Then, sleeping in, she lounged around the hotel room, spinning yarn of the fallen Claude to Tiff and seeing her roommate off before perusing HBO and the other fine amenities that come along with hotel life. Somewhere between The Price is Right and that Kelly Ripa morning show, a discreet knock came to the door. The knocker was a well-vested man who called himself Mark Janner. "May I speak to you for a few minutes, Miss Calling?" he said to her from the hallway. Sure. Would you prefer I come in, or would you feel more comfortable if we spoke in the lobby?" "Here's fine. Come in." Mr. Janner rebuttoned his suit as he waddled in, his briefcase in tow. "Would you like a cup of coffee, sir?" "No, thank you, Miss Calling." "It's really not bad, although it's a bit strange. They don't give you more than one filter at a time. So every evening when I get home from work, I ask for an extra one so that there's enough for Tiff to have 2 cups. Usually I mean to drink a cup in the morning, but I always forget until it's too late and it's time to go." Jenn waxed a little nervous. This uppity-dressed lawyer was calling her by her fake name. What if he was onto the ruse? Jenn tried her darndest to suppress any reddening of her cheeks or twitches or anything that would give her falsehood away. The result was that when she was not speaking, she sat, back arched straight up, so that her upper body held itself stiff like a mannequin. Then when she did talk, her posture collapsed briefly, only to be firmly re-established as soon as her tongue lapsed into silence once more. Back and forth this went. Relaxed, mannequin. Relaxed, mannequin. Relaxed, mannequin. Thankfully, the lawyer didn't seem to take much notice. "I'm here because of what occurred yesterday at St. Denise's in Magical Kingdom. Are you aware of what I am referring to, ma'am?" Claude's death." Jenn had awoken at 3 a.m. from her same agonizing, repetitive brown dream. But when she tried to go back to sleep, the image of that mechanical giraffe slamming its head against the pavement wouldn't bleed out of Jenn's consciousness. It rattled her and kept her blood racing for a decent half hour. Needing some sort of remedy to this nauseating image, Jenn decided on a piecemeal funeral. Poor old Claude had gone to meet his mechanical maker in the sky. Jenn tore off 2 pieces of toilet paper, interlaced them to make a cross, delicately placed the cross in the calm pool of the toilet, and ceremoniously flushed the cross, and her goodbyes, down the toilet, all the while pushing away the persnickety thought that funerals and deaths and ceremonies were all myths that she shouldn't buy into. These myths weren't tested, so she had no concept of whether or not they were useful data in which to solve the world with or not. But the emotions of 3:30 a.m. ran far swifter than reason. Jenn's sense of duty fulfilled now, she was able to slip off into Dreamworld once more, where the walls of brown once again welcomed her home. "What is this?" The attorney was confused and astonished at Jenn's remark. Oh, I'm sorry. I named the mechanical giraffe Claude. So, he was killed. He died. Claude's death." Seeing no levity in the moment whatsoever, the lawyer continued unwaveringly. "Miss Calling, I've been hired on behalf of Dr. Miles Faw to represent Mr. Mohammad Najjar." "Who?" "Mr. Najjar is the man who is presumed to have run into your giraffe." "Oh. All right. And what was the other name? Something Fa?" "Miles Faw is Mr. Najjar's hypnopsychologist. He had been working with Mr. Najjar for several months to help Mr. Najjar overcome his trauma." "What trauma?" "That's his business. I want you to know that you're very likely to be visited by another attorney later today. As I understand it, your employer, the Magical Kingdom, is performing its own investigation into the matter, so you'll likely want to repeat everything you tell me to this other lawyer. It does no one any good if your story changes from person to person." Now on solid footing, knowing that this stick in the mud wasn't investigating her identity, Jenn felt more inclined to play ball and push back. "Excuse me, why do you think I would have any reason to change my story? I've got no reason to lie." "Miss Calling, it's been much less than 24 hours since the incident. I am only hired by very accomplished men and women. I don't do nothing cases. This one is only in its infancy, but the worry is that because of Mr. Najjar's ethnicity and nationality, he will be tried in a court of law as a terrorist." "What?" "Surely you can understand, then, how important every little piece of information is. And the fact of the matter is, Miss Calling, if that is who you really are, is that after only an hour of research by my team, we found you to be a very suspicious character. May I ask where you were born?" Sirens in Jenn's head. No, you may not." "Where did you live before you started working at Magical Kingdom?" "I don't have to answer that." The needle-eyed lawyer pressed further. "Who pays for this hotel room?" "Tiff does." "How did you meet Tiff?" "We're just friends. Have been a long time." Jenn felt queasy openly lying like that, stealing the truth. Is that right? Mr. Janner said smugly. What is Tiff's last name? O'Malley. No, that was Flusher's last name. And Tiff and Flush weren't really brother and sister. But did Mr. Janner know her name? Surely not. But he'd know the name Tiff has on her fake ID. Think, old girl, think. What did Tiff say her name was? Jen was taking too long to respond, and she knew it. The attorney filled the silence. Good. I was hoping that was how it would be. Jen suppressed panic once more. Like what? It doesn't have to be like anything. A conniving smile. Do you believe Mr. Najjar rammed the mechanism you were riding as an act of terrorism? It was time to play roulette with this slime ball. What does it matter what I think? What do you need me for? I'm simply trying to get witness testimony on the event that took place yesterday. You were in a prime location to see exactly what happened. Perhaps. But there were many people there. 6 men go along with my litter. Why are you pressing me with vague threats? No one's threatening anyone, Miss Calling. But you researched me this morning. Why? Due diligence. My team does that with every potential witness. No, I don't think so. You were digging, and you came into my hotel room with a very specific intent. If you just wanted a witness, you treat me like a lady and ask me what happened yesterday from A to Z. You wouldn't jump straight to your client's intent. Another smile, this one less assured. Jen's gamble paid off. Shall I try again? I haven't come here to make enemies, Miss Calling. I'm an attorney. I'm used to being lied to and used. People always try to manipulate me, to tell me either what they think I want or what they think they need. All I do is play Cleopatra. Janner sighed. No, you don't. Yes, I do. All right, let's start over. And with that, the blood-sucking lawyer stood up, rebuttoned his suit jacket, and briskly walked out the door, slamming it behind him. Jen hung her head, exhaling with relief. She had no idea who this man was, or who he really represented. But he wanted something. He wanted something badly.
Hey, this is Dante Stack. Have you noticed there's never any advertising on Solve the World? So if you would like to show appreciation or help maintain Solve the World's existence on the interwebs, please consider donating. Anything from 10 cents to $1 million is welcomed. Donations help pay for hosting fees, and if there's any extra, go to marketing the show so that more people can discover it. Go to DanteStack.com and look for the tip jar icon. Clicking that, you can easily donate to me using PayPal or Stripe. Guys, I would really appreciate it. And remember, no advertising. So tip jar, guys. Tip me. See ya.
Hey, this is Jimmy from Fort Smith, Arkansas. I've listened to all 100 episodes of Jen's story. Life for Jen is not going to slow down. Stay with her, for the road is long and hard that out of the darkness leads into solving the world.